Today we're going to cover dialogues. There are three types of dialogue. I'll show you the first one here. This is an alert dialogue. It's very straightforward. You just have your title and whatever text or HTML, if you're into the HTML thing, in there, and it just displays it. It will have an OK button and then a close button up at the top, and that's it. Just a very simple. One thing to be aware of is when you hit OK, it will continue down through the text. If you have nothing on close go to field, it will continue on down through it. Like with a lot of actions, if you leave a landing option empty and that landing option gets triggered, it will just stop. But for whatever reason, dialogues are different. If you don't put a landing name in here, it will continue on down to the next line. If you put a landing name in here and there is no corresponding landing to go with that, it will stop. If there is a landing matching that name, it will go to that landing and it will do whatever that landing says. So just something to be aware of. For an alert dialog, when you hit OK, which is the default button that comes up, it will drop down to the next line. If there is nothing in here and they hit the close button at the top, it will drop down the next line. If there's something in there, it will try to go to that landing. And if it can't go to that landing, it will stop. Okay, so we take a look at this. You have the title text, and I'll put this up side by side so you can see. As for title, I just put in title text, and it shows title text, content text, content text. Now, when it comes to the HTML, this window, you can grab this corner here and expand it if you want to put more information in there. You can put the HTML directly in here if you're using HTML, or you can have it in a file, which you can just load up, you browse and load it up. You can also hard set the width and height. If you don't, it just fits in whatever size. Like, so if you put in tons and tons of text, the window will automatically resize to fit the text. It'll be whatever the minimum size is for the text. But if you want it to be exactly a certain size, height and width, you can put them in here. The ID field is for the, what is it called? Close dialog action. If you identify it with an ID, you can then close it from that close dialog action. If you don't fill in the ID, you can't do it. So if you're not planning on using that feature, you don't need to fill in the ID. As you can see, mine is blank. The window still works fine. And then who you display it to, you've got the targeting reticle. So if you want to select a user from the user list, you can do it with the targeting reticle. Otherwise, you can display it to everyone. You can display it to all the players only, the GMs only. Keep in mind, though it says GM only, and generally you only have one GM. If there are multiple GM accounts and more than one is logged in, each one of them will get the dialog popping up. Triggering player, triggering token owner. This may seem confusing at first, like they're the same thing. Triggering player is who is controlling the token at the moment that it gets triggered. Like who, or if there's no token involved, who is like clicking on the tile to trigger it. So the token may be owned by someone else, but is currently being controlled by someone. Then it will display differently depending on those. Current tokens owner. This would be for if you're using a filter. Filters form current groups. This would be current groups. So if you did like a saving throw, for example, right? And you had the group of tokens that passed the saving throw and a group of tokens that failed the saving throw, then the current tokens owner would be that current group. So all of the tokens that passed the saving throw, their owners, and all the tokens that failed the saving throw, their owners. And then current users is, as far as I know, and correct me down in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but as far as I know, current users and everyone are the same thing. Because all the currently logged in users and GMs are in that. So that would just be everyone. So I don't know what, if any, difference there is between those two things. If you are aware of what there is a difference, then let me know in the comments. I would appreciate that. So that's it for the alert dialog. It's a very simple, straightforward. It's just meant to display information, and that's it. There are no decisions. It doesn't return any data. Nothing complicated about it at all. It's just an info box. But as you can see, if I click OK, it dropped down to the next line. It showed the scrolling text. All right. But if I do it again and I hit the cancel button, it doesn't show the scrolling text because I put a landing name in there, even though the landing doesn't exist. Okay. So the next one, we'll take a look here. We are using the confirm dialog. Now, confirm dialogs, again, are very simple. You have the title, ID, if you're playing using the close dialog option, who you're going to display it to. And generally, for this type of dialogue where there's some interaction, there's some decision, you want to go with triggering player or GM or something like that. You want the dialogue to be targeted to the person who's going to make the decision rather than everyone, where you can have everybody all choosing something different. Then you have your text or HTML, your height and width if you want to customize those, then landings for yes, no, and close. And notice with this one, I didn't fill in the close. So what's going to happen if I hit the X button on the dialog, it's going to drop down and it's going to do this next line. Whereas if I filled it in, it would look for that landing, go to that landing if it finds it, and if not, just stop. All right. But again, this is one where the users get a simple binary yes, no choice. But if they click the close button, they will get neither. So it's choosing not to choose. It's aborting the choice. Okay, so if we bring that over there, we come in here. Again, you get the text and the title. I choose yes. It jumps down, shows yes. If I choose no, it knows that you chose no. And if I hit cancel, you didn't choose. All right, so those are the three options there. And keep in mind that most people won't even realize that X button is there. They'll immediately go with just the buttons at the bottom of the thing. So it's not all that often that people will choose that option, but just something to be aware of because you'll always get at least one. Okay, now this is where things get a little more complicated. This is your custom dialog box. All right, so first I'll show you the box. All right, so we got the title, we've got text, I've got input fields, I've got OK and cancel buttons, I've got little icons on them. There's all kinds of things going on here. All right, but it's not all that difficult. Now, obviously with custom HTML, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. And I'm not an HTML coder. So I'm far from an expert on it, but there is one basic type of HTML that you can use and that I have used here. And this is to allow people to enter in information, right? And it's not that difficult to do. I'm going to show you here. You're using this HTML tag form inside the greater than, less than symbols. And then you end it with /form. And everything inside is going to get splayed up here, right? And you see, it's just plain text. And then you put in the inside the less than, greater than symbols, BR, which is the carriage return, line feed. It's next line, new line. So we have the text, as you can see, and then new line. We have some more text, new line. We have some more text. And then for inputting information, you have the less than symbol, input name equals, and then the name of the variable that you want that information to be stored in. Now, as you can see, it says value equals variable dot damage formula, right? What's going on here, because keep in mind, as it says, is value equals. When you get information from a dialog, or you get information from a die roll or anything like that, it's not stored in a variable, it's stored in a value, which keep in mind are temporary. What this is doing is it's showing a default value, as you can see here. Look at the contents of this variable and show it in the field. And it's not like sometimes when you see examples in fields, those examples are like gray in the background. They're not really actually there. This is actually physically there. You can go in, you can edit it. You have to delete it if you want to put in something different. If you hit OK, it will actually return this value as the entered value. Then we have another character turn down here, and then we have some more text explaining what the next field is for, and then we have the same thing. Input name equals damage type. Again, that is the name of the value that's going to be returned, not the name of a variable. And then it's pulling the variable damage type to autofill the field with the current damage type. So this is as advanced as I'm going to go as far as custom HTML. So you can do this and you'll get a simple text entry box where you can enter information. This is as far as I go with fancy HTML. Again, I'm not an HTML coder, but as you can see, this is very simple and straightforward. And that's as far as I'm going to take it in this tutorial. If you use more advanced HTML, or if you've got an HTML file you want to use or whatever, that's fine. But that's as far as I'm going to take it. Now, CSS classes is something that is in this one that isn't in the other two dialog types. Again, this is because it's for more advanced custom dialog boxes. I'm not using any. And then you have your width and height, then your on close go to. If you don't fill this in, it will, and they hit the X button, it will continue down through the code. It won't stop. Keep that in mind. And then you get to create your own custom buttons, as many as you want. If you saw my 2-in-1 puzzle, I think I've got like 5 buttons or something like that on that one. This only has 2. And the cancel button, as you can see, there is no landing name in here. It doesn't go anywhere. The cancel button is just a button to abort. It's the same thing as pressing that. Now, if you don't put a landing in here, it will stop. You don't need to put in like a fake landing name that is used. It will stop. Unlike this one, where if you don't put in a landing name, it will keep going. So it's a little inconsistent with Monk's active tiles as to behavior between one tile and another. So there's something to be aware of. Now, for the individual buttons, we'll go in here, we'll edit one of them. You give the name of the button, which is also the text that will appear on the button. You give the landing of where do you want the code to go when that button is activated. The submit button is only if you are inputting values, right, in a form. If you're doing a form where they're returning values and you want those values to actually be used by Matt, then you need to have this submit checkbox turned on so that we'll actually return those values to Monk's active tiles. And then for custom icons, it uses something called Font Awesome icons. Now, I'll show you their website here. So this is the website, fontawesome.com, and it's just a bunch of free icons. So you just search for the type of icon you're looking for. Like mine has a check mark, so it'll say check, hit enter, and then it'll show you like a bunch of different options. Now, something to be aware of, the Pro and Pro Plus options are not available, just the normal ones. And all you do is you click on it, and it comes up here and gives you information. There are some variations and you can choose from. And then you pick the one you want, and what you want is this text inside the quotes. So the fa.solid space fa.check, right? Or this one here, you got fa.thin space fa.dash check, sorry, not dot, fa-thin space fa-check. That's the text that you're looking for. You put that in here, and when you hit save, it will show you the icon here. The icon's not necessary. You can just leave it blank. The buttons will still work just fine. And you can see these buttons here for Monk's Active Tiles have icons on them. And those icons come from the same place. Okay, and then for this button, I have the icon. I don't have submit, and I don't have a landing because the button just means stop, don't do anything. Okay, so not a whole lot different from the other two, other than you have the CSS classes. You can put in fancy HTML if you want, and then you get to create a whole bunch of different buttons, and each one of those buttons can be redirected to a different landing. So you can use this with just plain text, no HTML, just plain text, which actually is how I've done it with my 2-in-1 puzzle. It comes up, it's just plain text with a series of different buttons, and each button just goes to a different landing. There's no submit, there's no HTML. So these don't have to be super difficult or complicated. If you just want the ability to choose from more than 2 options, you can use the custom dialog with just plain text and a bunch of buttons, and that'll work. All right. So then you have your landing that you jump to, and you do whatever it is you want to do for that landing. So specifically for this, what I've done is I've put in an error check. This line here, check value, because keep in mind returned information, as you can see, is value dot whatever. It's not variable dot. It's these temporary information that comes back from a dialog box or a dice roll or whatever. And I'm just checking to see if it actually contains any information, right? If it doesn't contain any information, then jump down to the next section, right? Do the next thing. So this one is for setting the damage formula, and this next landing is for setting the damage type. So what this is saying is if it's equal to nothing, then don't do this. Jump down to the next landing. Don't do this. So if they enter nothing, it will keep the information it already has, just as a safety check. All right. Otherwise, it's going to come down here and it's going to take the value and assign it to a variable so that I can permanently save it. Because remember, values are temporary. Variables are permanent. So we're setting the variable on this tile, the name of the variable, and then we're assigning it the value. Then we come down. This landing is not a stop landing. So after it does that, it will come down here. So either way, it's going to come down to this landing. In this landing, it's going to do the same check. And as you can see here, there's no landing mentioned. And unlike with the unusual behavior of dialogues, if you don't put in a landing name, it just stops, which is usually what happens. And so it won't go down and do this assignment if the information is blank. If the information is not blank, it'll come down here. It will assign the value to the variable so it can be permanently saved. And that's it. That is the 3 types of dialogue, how to use them without any advanced knowledge of HTML. If you want to do HTML and you don't know how to do HTML, you can, of course, ask. Or another one is just most AIs can spit out competent levels of HTML. So if you're not getting too advanced, you just want some nice custom formatting or whatever, you can probably get any AI to spit that out. These are really, really handy. Like once you get used to using them, a lot of my earlier traps and puzzles, things like that, didn't use dialogues because I just never went to the trouble of learning how to use dialogues. So I would always come up with other ways of doing it, manual editing things and stuff like that. But once you get comfortable with using dialogues, then it makes interaction with your tiles so much easier and simpler and self-explanatory. Because inside the dialogue, you can put instructions of exactly what it is going to happen or exactly what it is you want to do or whatever. And you can make those instructions as detailed as you want. So they are a very powerful tool that you can use. And they're not that hard to learn. Once I went to the trouble of actually learning them, I like using them, and they're very handy. And if you're like me and you have trouble remembering, once you've done that, like this tile here that I use for doing my custom damage formulas, once you have that dialogue set up in that tile, you can just go and copy and paste that tile into the next puzzle or trap or whatever it is that you're creating. And that's what I do. I'm lazy. So it's a nice, simple way of doing that. It's quicker and easier. And if you're like me and you have trouble remembering things, which actually, by the way, for those who don't know, that's the reason why I make these tutorial videos. I used to do, I had a channel that did tutorial videos for Unreal Engine. That's because I was learning Unreal Engine and I was having trouble remembering the things that I learned. So I made the tutorial videos actually for myself. And they also, they help other people as well. But the primary reason why I do them is they're just to-do notes for myself to remember how I did something that I did so that I don't have to relearn it 6 months from now when I need to do something similar. So hopefully you guys find these tutorials interesting and helpful, and also, use them as future notes for down the road when, you worked your butt off to make that puzzle that you made a few months ago, but that puzzle was done and then you ran your campaign, and campaign takes a while, and it could be 6, 8 months, a year, more, before it's time to design your next campaign. And you don't remember any of the stuff that you learned when you were setting that stuff up. And, that's another reason why I make these tutorials. So hopefully you'll find it helpful a year down the road too. Anyways, that's it for Dialogs. Hope you guys found it useful. Have a good one.